Good morning. Today we are going to draw a set of buildings using two-point perspective. So let's get started. Before we do anything, I'd like for you to, on the back side of your mixed media paper, make a couple of notes. These are going to be reminders for us today. First of all, we want to remind ourselves that when we are working with two-point perspective, we always start with the corner that is closest to the viewer. And everything is built off of that corner. Secondly, all lines used in two-point perspective are either vertical, which is straight up and down. This is not a number one. It is an example of a vertical line. Or go to the right vanishing point, or they go to the left vanishing point. Now that we have our reminders, let's go ahead and take our extender and tape it in place. This is one that I used before, so it has my horizon line from another project on it. But I'm going to just tape it to the back of my paper so that the clean side of my paper is on my front. Go ahead and tape it in the middle of your project paper, so that there's even spacing above and below your extender. And you can eyeball it, but you want the right side and the left side of the extender to extend off of the paper about equal amounts. Flip that baby over, and let's get started. So the first thing that we want to do is to establish our horizon line and then our right and left vanishing points. So our horizon line is going to be here in the middle. We want it to be nice and parallel with the top and bottom of our pages. And this is a construction line. And then we can use our ruler to extend that horizon line over to the right hand side. Give ourselves a little point at the end of our extender strip, and that is our right vanishing point. Use our ruler to extend the horizon line over to the left hand side. Give ourselves a little dot, label that left vanishing point. And just as a reminder, we can write horizon line. And as a reminder, the horizon line is what divides the sky from the ground. So we're going to, just like we wrote on the back, our reminders were to start with what is the corner, the front corner that's closest to the viewer. And so we are going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and see where the middle of the paper is by making an X from the top corner to the bottom corner opposite each other, and doing the same thing here. This will just ensure that we're all kind of working in the same place. And then this is the center of the page, and so I'm going to go ahead and make a line center of the page from just about maybe an inch from the top of my page down past the horizon line and to maybe an inch and a half from the bottom of my page. Again, it doesn't really matter. It's just that if your lines are really close to where mine are, then what you look at on the tutorial will make more sense to what you're building. But if yours is a little bit higher, a little bit lower, a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left, it's all good as long as this corner line is perfectly vertical. Now we are going to be drawing 3 buildings. One building that's in the center, one that's to the right, and one that's to the left. And so this is the corner of the building that is in the center. Let's go ahead and define the right and left sides of that building by making lines from the bottom of our corner line to our left vanishing point. Remember, these are construction lines, so you want them to be nice and light. You also want a line from the top of your corner line to your left vanishing point, and do the same with the right side. Make sure that you're always right on that vanishing point. Remember that technique where you can put your pencil on the vanishing point, push your ruler up to the pencil, and then rotate your ruler until it is on the corner. And it is worth checking and rechecking because your perspective will look more accurate if those lines are really accurate. So now this is a big building. It goes on forever. We are going to go ahead and stop this building, and just to give you a measurement, I'm going to say maybe a little bit over an inch, 1.25 inches. That's what I'm going to make this building, 1.25 inches. And then about the same on the left-hand side. 1.25 inches. Again, this doesn't really matter. It's just if you want your building to match mine. So this is one building. Most buildings can be simplified down to a basic cube, especially if you're talking about a commercial building that's maybe in a downtown area, because those buildings tend to be pretty simple. Once you start getting into pitched roofs, gables, things like that, then it becomes a little bit more complicated, and we can get into that, but right now we're keeping it simple. So our first building is going to be right here in the middle. We can go ahead and erase our extra construction lines, including that big X that helped us find the center of our paper. All right, so the next building is going to have, we're going to have a little bit of a space between the center building and the one next to it. Maybe it's an alleyway or a space between the buildings. So I'm going to, it doesn't really matter how far over you come. I'm just eyeballing it like a nice little space right there. And it turns out to be like a little bit more than 1/4 inch. Yeah, I think it's 5/8 inch. And strike a line. Now this is the corner that is closest to the viewer of the second building. And this building is going to be taller than the first. So that means that this corner line is going to go up above the roof line of our first building. Now, just like we did before with our corner building, we're going to, on this new building, use our vanishing points to the left for the top and bottom of that corner line, and then use our vanishing point on the right to construct the right-hand side of that building. And the line that's down here along the sidewalk, that is already a line that is in the correct place. Now, the left side, notice that whenever we draw lines to the left vanishing point, it's making the left-hand side of the structure. These are lines going to the left vanishing point. This is the left-hand side. These are lines going to the right vanishing point. This is the right-hand side of the building based off of the corner. Same thing with this one. The left-hand side goes toward the left vanishing point, but where it hits our first building, it disappears. That's going to help this side look like it's disappearing behind the first building that we made. So building number 2 is over here on the right hand side. It looks like it goes on forever. We don't want it to go on forever. So we're going to go ahead and strike a line indicating where that building stops. And if you want to be in sync with me, it's just about an inch. Then we can erase extra lines. Now we have 2 simple buildings. Let's make a third building on the left side. Again, we're going to start by making a little alleyway, a little space. And this building, like the second one, is going to be taller than the building that's on the corner. We're going to make the left-hand side by making lines toward our left vanishing point, top and bottom from our corner line, and making lines to our right vanishing point. Top and bottom from our corner line. Now we have a third building with a side that's going off to the right and a side that's going off to the left forever and ever. And we're going to stop that side and so that it doesn't look like it goes off forever and ever. With a vertical line, this one looks like it's right at an inch. If you want to keep yours like mine. Okay, very exciting. 3 buildings. They look just like cubes, and we are going to add some details to make it look more like a little city. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually add some sidewalk down here. So this line that is starting at the base of the center building is also the inside of the sidewalk. And so we're just going to come straight down from that building. It's about a half an inch, maybe a little bit more. And then we're going to take that line back to the right vanishing point. And back to the left vanishing point. And this is going to become our sidewalk. Now it'll look more like a sidewalk if we give it a curve. So we're going to add another line from the right vanishing point and a line from the left vanishing point. And that's looking more like a curb and more like a sidewalk. Now, sidewalks tend to be constructed using construction joints, which is just the part of the sidewalk that looks like a joint, like it separates 2 squares. And the reason that they do that is so concrete tends to shift a little bit in extreme cold. And so if there's any cold weather freezing that makes the concrete crack, it'll crack in the construction joint and it won't be a visual flaw across the top of the concrete. So what we're going to do is we're going to make these squares. And the first thing that we're going to do is just to extend to the edge of our sidewalk the bottom line from the bottom of the buildings in both directions. It also helps to kind of like visually lay down the whole sidewalk. And then we're going to make lines that are our construction joints in our sidewalks as they go toward the vanishing point. And so I'm just going to eyeball some distances. So from here to here, I'm going to give myself maybe half that distance, and then a little bit less than that, and a little bit less than that, and a little bit less than that, because I'm keeping in mind that the sidewalk, as it goes further away from the viewer, it's going to appear that these squares are smaller and smaller. Now that I have those little tick marks in place, then I can come back and using my ruler and my left vanishing point for each of these tick marks, I'm just drawing these lines toward my left vanishing point so that it starts to look like that's kind of like laying down a bit. Looks like I need to finish that. So I'm going to add some more lines going toward my left vanishing point. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here. So the distance from my corner to my first construction joint, I'm going to make that distance again, but just a little bit less. That distance again, but just a little bit less. I'm just eyeballing this. You could get really careful and serious about those lines if it's important to you, but we're just learning. And then I'm going to make all of these lines go to the right hand vanishing point. It looks like my ruler isn't quite long enough to extend that distance, so I'm really using my eyeballs in order to kind of try to make sure that it's on my right vanishing point. And you can keep these lines going back even more if you would like. Might look kind of nice to finish that. Something like that. It definitely looks more like buildings, but there's no architectural elements. And so we're going to add some of those architectural elements in, doors and windows. And the same rule applies for all doors and windows. They're square and they're going to be going either vertically or to the right or left vanishing point. Any door or window that is on the right-hand side of the building is going to go to the right vanishing point. So let's start here to begin with. So I'm going to make a little tick mark that's closer to my horizon line. I'm just going to make a line along the right-hand side. I'm going to copy that over on the left hand toward the left vanishing point. And I'm going to make a big opening down here on the right and the left side. And I'm going to do that by giving myself a nice vertical line like that. And then going off to the right vanishing point. And the same thing over here. I'm just coming off of the corner, going straight up, coming off of the corner a bit, going straight up. We're not really doing a lot of measuring. It's just kind of what looks good to you. Now, I can tell you that if this opening is the same as this opening, then the header height or the top of that opening will be consistent. And you can check that if you want to by extending the top or the header over to your corner. And then by using that corner, you can use it to match the heights of both of your openings. And now we're just going to put in a band of windows in this building. So we're going to come up a little ways. We're going to come off of the corner and off of the corner a little bit, something like that. And then maybe even this extends above the horizon line. And we're just going to put in a band of windows. So this is where the structural elements are on the outside, and then the windows are in here. One easy way to make a band of windows that are all the same size is you can find out where the center of the big window opening is by making a little X. That's going to be your middle, right? Making a vertical line. And then you can subdivide these sections as well, finding the center of each of those openings. And making another X. And then finding the center of those openings. Now that's only if you want to have really good looking, very accurate window sizes that are all, they would be the same size windows in reality. And then let's do the same thing over here. So I'm going to use my right vanishing point and extend my lines for the top and the bottom windows over to my corner, and then use that corner line to wrap those windows around so that the height and the bottom of those windows is exactly the same. And then I'm going to come off of this corner a little bit. I'm going to come off of this corner a little bit. And I'm going to heavy up the top and the bottom of the band of windows. Make sure I'm using my vanishing point. Just like we did over here, I'm going to subdivide this into 4 windows by giving myself a big cross from corner to corner, a big X. Subdividing it first in half, and then giving myself a big X again. Subdividing it in half again. And one more time. So now when I erase my construction lines, I have 4 windows that are all the same size that are properly distorted according to the laws of 2-point perspective. Okay, let's make another band of windows a little ways up. We're going to first take a look at where we want the next band of windows to be. If we were actually inside this building, then the windows would probably, the floor would probably be here, and then the windows would be here, and the ceiling would be here, and the floor would be here, and so the next set of windows, maybe they're up here. And we can make the same height windows or different height windows. This looks like it's about half an inch. So we can go ahead and put in another band of windows. And this is what's really nice. Once you've done the construction, then you can follow that construction up. So you don't have to redo construction. If you use the same elements, like these windows, then you can make the same, you can just extend your windows up above. No need to do work twice if it works well just like that. Okay. And we can come back over here. We're just going to add in one more set of windows on the left-hand side. Again, if we've done the work once, then we can just extend, making sure that the ruler is nice and straight. Take that all the way up. Heavy up those window lines. Now we can add additional articulation, like maybe there's a sandstone header above these windows, some kind of ornamentation. So we can just kind of block in where that would be, give it a little bit of detail. Maybe all of them have this little header. Oopsie. Maybe these up here, right? It's all in the details. And just using those left and right vanishing points. Maybe the top of the building has a little bit of ornamentation. So I'm just gonna bring my pencil down just a little bit. You don't even have to really know what it is. And maybe these are two big openings that actually there's space behind them. Like this is structure and this is structure and then there's space behind them. That they do that quite a bit with corner buildings, so that you can walk into this covered entryway that's still on the outside of the building and then maybe like hit one of those rotating doors. So let's do that. So down here, if we take our ruler and our pencil and make a little line that's going back like this into our building. So maybe it's just like a little covered area to get back into our building. Maybe it doesn't go all the way back. Maybe it just comes this far back. Maybe it just comes this far back. And then maybe this is, ooh, this is kind of neat. This could be like a triangular. We're kind of breaking our rules, right? Because it's like a storefront that you like go in underneath, and then maybe this is all glass. That could be so cool. So let's make it all glass. So from the bottom to the top, we're just gonna make it like it's a bunch of glass, like glass doors. You can do all kinds of fun details. Maybe that glass actually is doors that go in, like FAO Schwartz or one of those neat buildings. Has all kinds of fun things to look at. Anyway, it's like a little downtown building. It's the same process to add doors and windows to these two buildings here. And you can kind of follow along if you are feeling extra brave and you want to try your own hand at putting in doors and windows in these two buildings, then feel free at this point and add some doors and windows to the right and left buildings. And if you want to just follow along, I'm going to continue to add doors and windows here as well. I think it would be really nice to have like a big arch So I'm going to show you how to do that. So first of all, we're going to get our vertical lines in. Tick mark here and a little tick mark here, and then we're going to make a big arched opening here. And we're going to start with a vertical line that's going up and a vertical line that's going up. And we want to make sure that the top of our lines go back to the vanishing point on the left-hand side. So really lightly, I'm just blocking in where that vanishing point line is. But we don't want this to be flat. Maybe we want it to be a big arch. So first of all, we want to find the middle of this arch so that we know what the highest point is. And the highest point of that arch is going to be in the middle, which is going to be right here. And then we can just eyeball it and go up and then come down. And that can be our nice big arch. If you want to, if this is a really nice kind of fancy opening to a shop or a storefront, then we could copy this arch. And then maybe we divide it into 3 pieces. And the center one is a door. Whoopsie. I didn't do a very good job of dividing that evenly. Let's try that again. That's a little bit better. And maybe there's some windows up here, and maybe there's a door in the middle, and then there's like windows down here. So that's kind of neat. A little door in the middle. We can put in like a little a little door. And windows on both sides. Something like that. Maybe this building has like some windows in here, and then maybe it has like a really big, tall something that's happening up there. We don't have to understand everything. We're just kind of blocking in some stuff that might look like it would make sense. So I'm going to block in just a couple of windows with spaces between them. Looks like I'll have room for 3. Okay, that works. I could have erased it if it didn't look quite right. And I do kind of like the band over the top. You can always add things like design elements, like horizontal bands that go all the way around the building. That can be really nice. We're just really operating out of our imagination at this point. You can definitely look at pictures for inspiration, but you don't have to. We might even put down here like a little detail. A lot of times, like if this is a little brick building, then it might have a little detailed band down here along the bottom. So that looks kind of cool, going back through the little alleyway. And then maybe this is like a factory. It's an old factory, and it's like a huge factory window up here. That could be neat. So if it's a huge factory window, then we just want to use our left vanishing point because it's on the left side, and build up a nice big square that's going to be broken into smaller windows. And maybe this little detail continues around the side, maybe goes back to this side. Just so many things that you can do. And then maybe this is broken up again into lots of little windows. Something like that. That looks pretty cool. So on this side, if the height of this opening is consistent with this building over here, then maybe there's, you know, maybe there's a couple of doors on this one. Change it up a little bit. Make our lines vertical for our doors. Maybe we just follow those up and we have a pair of windows that are above that all the way up. I kind of like that idea, right? Maybe this whole building is a little bit more vertical in nature. So we can just kind of subdivide. Putting windows wherever it kind of seems like we want to have those windows. Maybe there's an extra layer of windows up here. This is a pretty tall building. And I'm just using minimal construction lines. Reusing the same construction lines when I can. And it looks a little bit bland, so maybe, I don't know, maybe we can figure out an architectural element. Maybe we come back to something like this. Maybe we give it a little line down here to subdivide the materials. Maybe we give each of these windows a little sandstone header. Using our vanishing point, always using our vanishing point. So you really can get as detailed or as not as you want. You could put a billboard up, you could do trees. Let's make these doors, we're gonna bring these doors down to size, so maybe there's like glass mullions above these doors. And then maybe the doors sit in here like this. Something like that. We have articulated our buildings. Let's add some trees because that's kind of nice. Cities like to put trees because it makes the hardscape a little softer. So we're going to put one out right here, and it's going to come straight up, nice and narrow. And then we're just going to give it a nice jiggity jaggedy edge. Okay, then let's put another one maybe in this alleyway as you come out from the alley. So it'll be here, another little oval, one of those little, like, you know, the metal plates where the trees go in. And one of the things that you want to keep in mind is whatever height your tree is at, you want to be consistent because you want the trees to look like they are disappearing in the distance too. It just so happens that I drew my tree so that it was the top of the tree was right in line with the horizon line. So I want the top of this tree to be at the horizon line as well. And then also the top of my trunk where it meets the tree, I want that to be consistent as well. So I'm going to give myself a little line coming back here so that I know that the trunk is going to be this tall. This trunk for my first tree is determining the trunk height for my second tree. And then the horizon line is the determining the size of my tree in total. And then let's do that again over here. Here's our little alleyway. I'm gonna come straight out using my lines for my sidewalk, or taking my ruler and aligning it with my right vanishing point and bringing it out, and then give myself a little circular thing there. And I know that my tree height is going to be the same as my center tree. In my case, it is the same as the horizon line. And the trunk height stops here. I can give myself a little line coming back so that I know that the trunk is going to be consistent. And we're not worried about like individual trees, or individual leaves, but maybe trying to make them so that they're not lollipop-ish. And then let's go ahead and ink these babies. So you can use your ruler to ink, or you can just freehand it. I'm gonna freehand mine. The first thing I'm gonna do is take my nice big Sharpie and outline the profiles of my buildings. I love doing this because I can really heavy up the lines that are accurate, and at the same time, if I have little boo-boos, I can just kind of ignore them. Oh, before I do the buildings, woo, Miss Thomas, don't get too excited. I need to do whatever is in the foreground, and the tree is in the foreground. So that's what I'm going to do. Maybe there's a couple little openings in the tree. You know, it's not solid, it's made of leaves. And come down here. This tree too. I might even switch to my thin Sharpie for the trees that are further away, just to kind of exaggerate the fact that they're further away. I'm just doing real like jiggity jags. I have an overall pear shape for this type of tree, which is kind of typical in an urban setting. Okay, I feel better about that. And I'm gonna come back in here and, I don't know, you can decide to do the outlines of all of your buildings first, and then come back and use your thin Sharpie for the details, or you want to do it building by building, and that's fine too. I might add a little bit of brickwork underneath this window. I might add some lines in here to give more detail to the windows. My bachelor's degree is in architecture, so I just love drawing buildings. I worked in Colorado for 5 years, drew a lot of buildings, a lot of houses, a lot of ski lodges. And then after that, I worked as an architectural illustrator for 10 years in my own studio, in my own house, drawing buildings for architects that needed to show clients or design review boards what the building was going to look like before it got built. And I was just always really fascinated by the magic that is two-point perspective. It really does allow you to create on two-dimensional paper a whole world in which people can look at that and not only understand what you are trying to demonstrate, but also imagine themselves in that world, which is always, I think, a really special part of architecture and being an architect. My very first boss said, you know, you could be a doctor, but people that come to you will be sick. You could be a lawyer, but people that come to you will be unhappy. If you're an architect, they come to you with excitement and a dream. And that is definitely a fun thing to be a part of. Excitement and a dream. So I'm just inking these details. Yours might be different from mine, and that's absolutely fine. As I'm inking them, then I'm adding more details just for fun. I'm not sure I love that. It looks a little like a jail cell. It's a little bit better. Getting a little loose there, Miss Thomas. Okay, so the horizon line is something that you would see where the sky meets the ground. So back here, we can go ahead and add in the horizon line behind our buildings. And maybe we want to add a little more articulation to that. So maybe we have some like hills that are going on back there. I don't know, something. And maybe we have some mountains. Maybe this is like Boulder, Colorado, where you have some mountains in the background of this little community, these three little buildings.